In this proposal, we will discuss why integrated sustainability, an environmental solutions company, should expand into Sweden. First, we will provide a brief background of the company, focusing on its services, strategy, and success factors needed for this expansion. Next, we will use the Hofstede and Glow frameworks to outline why Sweden is an attractive country to expand into based on its cultural similarities to Canada. Furthermore, we will address integrated sustainability's current HR policies and how they will work within the Swedish culture, as well as what changes will need to be made in order to implement them effectively. Some of these areas include office culture, management strategy, and motivation. Finally, we will describe the process in which integrated sustainability will use to address change management during their expansion.
So Integrated Sustainability is a water and waste management consulting firm based in Calgary. So what that means is that they help companies deal with any of their freshwater or wastewater management needs. So drawing water from the river or from the ground, moving that water around, and disposing of it safely. So Integrated is really focused on coming up with innovative solutions that come from collaboration between people all over the company. They put a lot of emphasis on doing work that you're really truly proud of and taking ownership for the services that the company provides. I think that this is really where their values around being one big family are important. Really helps bring people from different professions in the company together to come up with these kinds of solutions. I really enjoyed working at Integrated. I found it a really supportive environment as a young worker who wasn't completely familiar with the industry. The expectation of excellence was still definitely there, but there was also the support to make sure that that kind of thing could happen.
After we introduce integrated sustainability, and also we will talk about the country, which is Sweden. For this part, we have 3 questions to ask. First one is why is Sweden, and the second one is why is integrated sustainability, and the third one, what does the industry looks like in Sweden. First one, Sweden has a near 10 million population with a high national GDP per capita of 51,000 of US dollars compared to Canada with near 47 US dollars. High tax in Sweden fund very expensive social welfare program that forms the basis for Sweden's low unemployment and longer average life expectancy. Swedish have a higher expectation for the welfare and the maintenance of their environment. So this intense value of environment drive forward to the opportunity for integrated sustainability, which is the company, to expand into the local culture and add to the environmental goals and the strategies already in the place. And then we move on to next second question. The culture between Canada and Sweden are quite similar in different cultural dimensions, as we showed in here. For example, we can see the power, distance, intelligence, and individualism. Cultural similarity are key to a smooth international expansion strategy. With more cultural commonalities, this will be easier to identify and predict the reaction and the behavior of market that integrate sustainability and to service. This similarity could help integrate sustainability to quickly expand into with less cost. And then last question will be answered. There are already a few strong rivals in Sweden's sustainability consolidation market. These are few companies focused on international sustainability consolidation, but there is no one like integration sustainability. So integration sustainability provides solutions along with help in implementing these solutions. From this perspective, integrated sustainability has a sort of competitive advantage and other competitors. A company called Carta is an international water treatment from Japan. By providing customers from a broad range of industry with all-around water and energy management solutions while focusing on such issues such as enhancing productivity, reducing environmental bonding, and energy saving. Perhaps Carta would be the most competitive company in Sweden when integrated sustainability evolves into the market.
The first thing I'm going to talk to you about is describing our target company from a sociocultural perspective. How we analyze this is we use the Hofstede framework. The Hofstede framework analyzes 6 different dimensions of culture in a country. So these 6 different dimensions were power distance, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence. So when comparing Sweden to Canada, we found that there were a lot of similarities between these 2 countries in terms of these several dimensions, and the only really large gap or difference between these 2 was in the masculinity category. In terms of power distance, both Sweden and Canada score relatively low. There isn't such a large gap between employees and management, and there's a lot of sort of collaboration and communication. Canadian and Swedish culture scores pretty high in the individualism dimension. So this sort of means that they put high emphasis on a loosely knit social framework. Canadians and Swedes are really supposed to take care of themselves and are supposed to prioritize independence, especially in terms of sort of workplace success. So as well as the employee and employer relationship is really based on mutual advantages, and only promotions are based on merit. The next dimension we analyzed is uncertainty avoidance. So both Sweden and Canada scored low in this dimension, which means that there really isn't pressure to sort of figure out what might occur in the future and to avoid uncertainty. So this means that Swedish and Canadian culture really put a heavy emphasis on a relaxed culture, and they really promote innovation and the fact that there will be gaps in the future, and they really promote creativity to fill these gaps. Both Canadian and Swedish culture, they score in the middle category of long-term orientation. This means that Swedish and Canadian culture really doesn't have a preference for embracing new ideas, but as well as keeping traditions alive. So they really find the importance of having this balance between the 2. The 6th and final dimension we analyzed is indulgence. Sweden and Canada scored relatively high in this category, and that means that they really find the importance of indulging in leisure time and spending money as they wish, on top of finding that work-life balance. The last dimension that we analyzed, and the one that had the biggest difference between these 2 cultures, was degree of masculinity in their society. Sweden, in this context, scored relatively low at around a 5, and Canadian culture scored a lot higher than Sweden. A masculine society really emphasizes this importance of success and coming out on top, regardless of how that may affect other people, whereas success in a feminine society means that everyone is equal, and we've worked towards making sure everyone gets along.
GLOBE stands for Global Leadership and Organizational Behavior Effectiveness. We use this to analyze countries, cultures, values, and practices. We use this one to analyze the similarities between Canada and Sweden. A high correlation between the GLOBE scores would tell us that Sweden is an ideal place for integrated sustainability to expand to. Canada and Sweden correlate highly on 3 dimensions: future orientation, humane orientation, power distance. Future orientation is investing in the future and investing, in this case, the environment. Both Canada and Sweden value and practice future orientation to a high degree. Humane orientation means that companies' values in regards to treating people fairly, altruistic, generous, caring, and kind to others. Once again, Canada and Sweden both have a high correlation between the humane orientation on the GLOBE scale. Power distance accepts and endorses authority, power differences, and status privileges in similar ways to create a company structure. Having a similar power distance GLOBE score between Canada and Sweden will allow integrated sustainability to more effectively integrate their company structure into the expansion. As you can see here, there's 9 full dimensions. We've talked about 3. The purple band relates to the practices of these sections, and the blue band relates to how the country values these sections. Looking at this chart, we can see the different relationship that Sweden and Canada share, and how the 3 dimensions correlate quite effectively.
As Integrated expands into Sweden, they will need a strategic HRM model that mimics the one currently in practice in Calgary, while still taking into account Sweden's unique culture. Integrated sustainability is built around employees who are passionate about what they do and are good at it. The company also has a healthy respect for work and life balance. Given the information provided by the frameworks, this model will fit well into the Swedish culture, as long as Integrated stays committed to hiring individuals who are extremely passionate about their professions and will want to put a great deal of time into professional pursuits. We recommend a mix of Canadian and Swedish employees in the new office. A Canadian with a history of the company should be the head of the office, and section heads should be a mix of Canadians and Swedes to help integrate Integrated sustainability's corporate culture with the Swedish way of life. Engineers and project managers should all be Swedes due to their familiarity with Swedish industry and company needs. In regards to training new employees, Integrated Sustainability already has a brief program to introduce new hires to the company, and then expects them to learn the more nuanced aspects of the company over time. We recommend that this continue, with the new program placing a greater emphasis on corporate culture and building that big family attitude the company is based on. Integrated Sustainability's current compensation package is heavily ownership-based. While employees do receive their expected salaries, they are also encouraged to buy into the company, increasing a feeling of ownership. We recommend that this buy-in program be emphasized in the new office, since this will help employees in identifying with the company and taking ownership of its reputation. Cultural symbols include stories, heroes, rituals, and ceremonies, as well as espoused values. We recommend that the new office create their own versions of these symbols, to bring the new office closer together and to create their own family overseas, based on the same values that Integrated already promotes. Integrated Sustainability has based their performance appraisal on being constantly evaluated and constantly evaluating others, so everyone is always held responsible for their actions. The company expects employees to always be advancing the business through the highest level of service, responsibility, and performance. This all comes together in performance appraisal based on goals and expectations for each employee. We recommend that this structure be continued in Sweden so as to maintain the company's standards and reputation as an industry leader.
It's incredibly important for an organization to have a change management plan when they're adjusting their structure. And so it was vital for Integrated Sustainability to have a strong change management plan when expanding into Sweden. For change management in this instance, one of the easiest ways to do it was to look through it at the frame from Kotter's 8-step process for leading change. The 8 steps in the process, as you can see here, is step 1, create a sense of urgency. Step 2, build a guiding coalition. Step 3, form strategic visions and initiatives. Step 4, enlist volunteer army. Step 5, enable actions by removing barriers. Step 6, generate short-term wins. Step 7, sustain acceleration. And step 8 is institute change. While expanding into Sweden, the most important steps that Integrated Sustainability had to focus on were steps 2, 3, and 5. Step 2 is building the guiding coalition. Step 3 is forming the strategic vision and initiatives. And step 5 is enabling actions by removing barriers. So to break these steps down a little bit, building a guiding coalition is incredibly important in change management because in order to manage the change, you have to have a strong and powerful team backing you that'll be behind the organization and support it all the way through. The second step that Integrated Sustainability needed to focus on was forming strategic vision and initiatives. This one is a fairly obvious one, as if you have a common goal amongst people, they're going to be more likely to build connections and work as a team to achieve that goal. Finally, the last step in change management that Integrated Sustainability had to hone in on was enabling actions by removing barriers. This one kind of focuses on looking ahead, forward thinking, and seeing restrictions that might be coming your way and doing the best you can to get rid of them and mitigate those restrictions right out the gate so that when you do come to the problems, it's a bit easier to overcome them and you don't get stumped and have to stop your project.